today is in the midst of a historic transition, a gradual but determined shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy. This is driven by the urgent need to cut carbon emissions and combat climate change. Governments, corporations, and financial institutions are now mobilizing trillions of dollars to rewire the way we power our homes, move people and goods, and run industries. From solar and wind farms to electric vehicles and green hydrogen, the energy mix is fast evolving. That said, fossil fuels won't disappear overnight, but their dominance in the global energy pie is expected to shrink steadily over the next few decades as clean energy becomes more cheaper, more scalable, and more widely adopted. So how are tariffs, trade dynamics, and geopolitical shifts shaping this energy transition, and what lies ahead for key players in the global power landscape? To discuss this and more, we are now joined by Eduard Sala de Vedruna, Head of Research, Energy Transition, Sustainability and Services at S&P Global Commodity Insights. Sir, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now. And we are seeing a lot of to and fro when it comes to tariffs. US President Donald Trump has sent letters imposing tariffs to several countries, while negotiations with several other countries continue to remain underway. How do you view this and its impact on global energy market, and what kind of impact will tariff and the possible volatility in equity markets have on energy market?
Well, clearly tariffs are something that create uncertainty, right? And the markets don't like to deal with uncertainty. So what we are seeing right now is really, prices are not reacting as bad as we thought initially, but at the same time, what we are seeing is a lot of wait and see kind of positions from different players across the globe. So I think that as soon as these tariffs are going to get more clarity and a lot of these bilateral discussions come to an end, and we have visibility on how the final picture is going to look like, we do expect a more of a stabilization. But right now, what we have is, as I said, is a wait and see kind of attitude. We have not seen spikes of the cost of commodities, and when it comes to clean technologies, what we have seen is basically stockpiling and people trying to secure their supplies in the short term.
Okay, so that's as far as transition and the current tariff impact on energy market is concerned. But energy transition is also a big theme. How do you assess the changing, evolving story and shift from fossil fuel to renewable energy? What impact will this have on oil consumption going forward?
Well, clearly energy transition is there. I think that we have to be a little bit more nuanced because the story right now, it's more around energy addition, right? We have significant growth that is going to be expected in the mid and long term. This is going to be basically driven by electrification. If we think about all the new incremental demand that we expect, almost everything is going to come from power. So we are going to have a transition, we are going to have a transformation, and we are going to have an addition of capacity. And this addition of capacity, what we see is a coexistence between fossil fuels that are going to continue to play an important role in the total energy mix, coupled with renewables that are going to increase their presence over time. But the message is really that what we see over time is a coexistence between fossil fuels. In the case of India, for example, coal will continue to play an important role. It's right now 70+% of all the generation in the country. We expect the role of coal to continue to be quite relevant in India, but at the same time, we see as well the role of renewables increasing dramatically. So it's this dual story around fossil fuels continuing to playing a role, being resilient in the energy mix, having renewables as well being deployed massively at a global level, with an acceleration of the deployment of renewables or clean technologies versus fossil fuels accelerating towards of the forecast period. So that means in the 2040s, 20 to 26 is time frame.
Okay, so that's as far as transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy is concerned. But if you can tell us, what in your opinion are the biggest barriers to scaling renewable energy globally? What are the challenges that the world is facing in this energy transition phase?
When you think about the barriers for the deployment or the deployment at scale of renewables, really it's not about cost. Cost renewables are the cheapest source of new generation globally. The barriers are more about how do you deal with their intermittence. Renewables, the difference between renewables and fossil fuels is that renewables can only produce when the resource is available, and that means that solar farms are going to produce when there is sun during the day. Wind farms are going to produce when the wind is blowing. And that means, but our needs for power are 24 hours, right? 24 hours, 7 days. So that means that we will need to build ways of storing this electricity and making sure that we don't have an overproduction when the resource is available and a shortage of production when the resource is not available. So storage is going to be important. Reinforcement of the grids is going to be very important, making sure that you can transport the electricity from where it is produced to where it is consumed, and at the same time making sure that you can balance the grid system or the grid and the power system by combining renewables with some sort of flexible generation that can be thermal, but as well can be developing more virtual storage in the form of grid enhancements and as well as storage. And another element that as well is important, that this is from a technology and management standpoint, is about permitting. Really, it's about enabling all this capacity to be permitted. It's a heavy user of space, so solar farms occupy space, wind farms as well occupy space. So we need as well to deal with the permitting. And in some places, when we think about places where renewables are quite important and the deployment has happened at a larger scale as well, NBism, it's one of the bottlenecks that can inhibit their development over time.
Okay, so that's as far as the problems the world is facing in transitioning to green energy. But let's talk about India in particular then. Since you just told us that coal is important, that perhaps it could coexist with renewable energy, how will renewable energy theme evolve in India, and what kind of challenges will India in particular face in its transition journey?
I think that India has three objectives, right? Like it's a famous trilemma. You want to have affordable energy. You want to have security of supply on this energy, and you want this energy to be sustainable. So in that case, really about security of supply, renewables can play a role. In terms of affordability or sustainability, sorry, they can play a role in when it comes to to affordability. Coal really is the preferred option in India, and that makes that coal is really embedded in the energy mix in the country. So when you think about the development over time, we do expect that coal will continue to play a role, and coal plays a role as a base load and as well providing the flexibility to the power system. And renewables, the big issue is not that much about the cost itself, because they are very cost competitive in many regions. The big issues in India are going to be around permitting. Where do you build these renewables? It's around grid as well, the capacity of the grid to couple and to cope, sorry, with these technologies and this intermittent generation. There is going to be a need to fix the problem around distribution companies in India that really are the ones that will have to take the burden of deployment of technology. So it's not really a technology issue. It's more a development issue. It's a permitting issue, and it's really around grid and grid enhancement. Very similar to other parts of the world.
Understood. Thanks so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now and helping us understand what the outlook is for the energy transition theme, not only globally but also back home in India.